Oops. Your culture's showing.
It is?
Yeah.
I gotta fix that.
Yeah, well, please do. Please do. And do it as soon as you possibly can.
Yeah, I didn't know it was showing.
Well, that's your problem, but you've got to fix it, buddy.
And that is precisely the point of this show.
It is.
We're talking about the fact that people don't know that their culture is showing.
Wait a minute. Are you talking about like going to the opera or something like that?
No,
what are you talking about?
I'm talking about when you meet people who are from a different country.
Oh, like different country world places.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to welcome everybody for joining us here because I'm Tom Peterson and I'm your host for this thing. And our producer is Torin. With any luck, you'll hear him laugh once in a while and maybe help us out with some information. And my good friend for a long, long time, at least 150 years, at least, somewhere in there, is with us here, Dean Foster. And Dean, why don't you try to convince me why you're here?
Well, I'm not to have fun, basically. Right?
Excellent.
I think so. But we're talking about cultures. And what do you need to know so that you feel more comfortable when you visit a place as you get off the boat, get off the plane as a tourist, or if you're doing business in another country?
Yeah.
What should I know in order to make it?
Well, you should know something because otherwise you're working way too hard. Listen, you sound sort of like you know what you're talking about. You done this before?
About 30 years.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shoes, feet. Talk to me about shoes.
Do you like my slippers?
I do like your slippers.
I'm wearing my puppies this morning.
Your puppies. Do you want to explain that? Because no one can see your puppies right now.
That's too bad.
It would be better for everyone if no one could ever see your puppies.
Maybe it's better that they can't.
I'm assuming that it is.
So years ago, Cheryl got me a pair of these slippers.
Okay.
And they have puppy heads on them where your toes are.
Okay, yes.
So they're very warm and very snuggly, and they remind you of being warm and snuggly when you go to choose which slippers to wear.
So maybe this is a mental aspect more than it is the actual physical creation of a snuggly slipper.
That's very true because the slippers actually not that warm.
Awful.
They're not that warm, but they look so snug.
And so that
your feet are warm.
Snuggly.
Your feet are warm, and so it's a freezing cold day.
Yes.
And I needed snuggles on my feet.
Well, then you should have snuggles on your feet.
You don't want to walk around in your house with your shoes on.
No, well, you could.
You could, but
some people do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that's a cultural thing, right? Because in a lot of places, I like to think if you look in Europe, from like Central Europe east all the way across the whole Russian thing to Korea, to East Asia.
Yeah.
Everybody takes their shoes off when they go inside their house.
Okay. I'm going to guess that was a result of just having really
schmutz. Lots of
weather.
schmutz.
Yeah. So you're tracking things in all over the place.
Yeah.
And there's a mothers up and down that entire area going, take your shoes off.
Take your shoes off. If you step up to somebody's house and you see shoes are lined up in the doorway, then you know to take your shoes off.
You should take yours off. They're not just storing them there. They're expecting you to take them.
And you'll see that from like Poland, Czechoslovakia, Austria, not so much Austria, going east at that point.
So what does that say about the ones who don't have that? I mean, like when you're in the countries that don't really do that, they just drag their shoes in, which is most of America, the United States. Is it just that we didn't figure it out or we didn't care as much?
I think it's because the civilization started much later. What are we, 250, 300 years old?
Yeah,
so,
3-something, I guess.
I mean, I think you still find those traditions in America, maybe more in rural places. I don't know. But I think, in the urban areas, it was a different story. I mean, you had filthy streets, sure, right?
Yeah.
But once that got fixed, once we got paved,
so they started paved
streets, I'm guessing.
And people did it less then.
And with an urban consciousness, you style and the occupation that you have was not necessarily agricultural.
Right.
Right. So
sure.
you don't have to worry about those things that much.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's it. Now, so I know they had mud rooms. They used to have mud rooms, and I remember farmhouses that had mud rooms So I'm guessing, is that like a place that they used to just make where they take their shoes off?
Yeah, and now
places
that's
like
coming back, right?
I
Don't
think
they
it
have
is.
that?
You have entryways, and they're building
And
into
they're
very
asking-
fine houses, or
people
getting
are
it that
asking
way.
for a mudroom, right?
Unless you just don't have space, but otherwise, I think people are putting some kind of entranceway to put their crappy shoes in.
Yeah. I mean, there are houses in the neighborhood in Brooklyn where we live where you can still see on the front step before you go into the house a metal device that's implanted into the concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I mean, you wouldn't know what it was to look at it, but we learned that was to scrape all the crap off your shoe before you walked into the house.
Literally, probably in the beginning.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, before the streets
of
were
the
paved
horses out
and
there
before the automobile.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, and they sell those actually. You can find those today. I think
What
like
are they
LL
called?
Bean
What are-
probably
what-
sells something like that.
What are they called? There must be a
Crap
name.
off of your shoe scrapers.
Look it up. But there's got to be a name. Google it.
I'm not. You Google it. I'm not Googling anything. I mean, we'll let the producer do it.
Okay.
Google the thing that's called that you scrape the crap off your shoe. It's in front of your house in the cement.
There you
Okay.
go. Yeah.
Will do.
Okay, that's being taken care of. As
Or
we
you
speak.
could simply take your shoes off and not wear them inside the house.
Or that. There's that. But at the same time, look, honestly, if you were dogs, you're out and you step in dog stuff. I mean, how nice would it be to have a thing like that to scrape your foot off on? And then leave that dog stuff sitting right outside your door for years at a time. I mean, wouldn't that be
And the cold weather, I mean, it takes care of it, right?
the cold weather and the rain, and then it washes it onto your steps,
But that's
and
an
you can walk
interesting
in it
cultural
again.
thing, too, because the whole idea of keeping animals in your house, right? It used to be traditionally that in certain cultures, you just would not keep in the Arab world. You don't keep animals inside your house.
Well, there are a lot of them are considered filthy.
Right, and I think it comes from the tradition of there was a time when, again, if you were, think about biblical days, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Christ was in the manger.
I'm thinking about biblical
days.
days right now.
Well, these are biblical days. That's very true. But so you would bring animals into the barn, and if you needed to be warm, you could hang out with the with the sheep and the cows in there, and it'd be pretty warm and
Sure.
the hay and all that.
Yeah.
But they're dirty, and you don't want to bring them inside where you're actually living. I mean, to do so indicates that you don't have the means to keep your animals elsewhere. You got to keep them inside. You're living with them.
Okay.
Right. So, like in the Arab world, traditionally you don't have dogs in the house. Even traditional Western pets like cats and dogs. And it's changing now. I mean, you go to Dubai, people are living Western style lives in big high rise apartments. So
you see dogs and stuff.
yeah, people
being
walk their
run-
dogs,
yeah,
of course.
yeah.
You see, but this is not traditional Arab culture. You
It's
go
not. They
into
don't have
an Arab home.
domesticated
No,
pets.
it's
like that.
considered dirty.
Yeah.
A dog, a cat, a bird inside the house.
Yeah.
It's dirty.
Okay.
It's disgusting.
But and traditionally, you're talking about places that tend to, and I could be wrong here, although I'm rarely wrong. But,
Rarely.
But
Which is why I'm speaking to you.
Well,
Because
well,
I
thank
don't
you for
speak
that.
to people who are wrong.
Well, that's going to change. If I'm thinking it's warmer weather most of the time, and if you don't necessarily run into that conflict of trying to keep yourself warm. I mean, what is it? Australia with 3 Dog Night?
Yeah, right.
And a
Right.
group that was, I really loved that group too. 100 years ago when they used to have songs.
There
that
was
they
a
sang.
dog. There was a group called 3 Dog
3 Dog Night. You didn't know 3 Dog Night?
Well, I'm not old enough to.
Oh,
know that.
okay. Well, now we've gone to making things up. So, okay. Yeah, they used to bring a 3 Dog Night, just simply meant it was really cold. And so they would have 3 dogs in the bed with them when they were sleeping to help keep them warm enough.
For me, it would be a 3 cat night.
Well, I guess just cats are smaller, so you get more heat out of a big dog. Because I'm guessing you're not take some dinky dog into the bed to warm up.
Why would you take a dinky cat into the bed?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You take a big-
I think it's
you
the
take a big
dinky
mother
quality
cat
that
in the
comes into
bed.
play here. It's how dinky is your thing.
In fact, cats are warmer than dogs. Square inch per
square inch.
Yes.
There's studies been done on that?
You just stick your hand in there.
I'm not sticking my hand in there. You
Just
stick your
do
hand
that.
in
I
there.
mean, you know what? The cat is so much warmer.
Okay, well, let's go with that as being.
Can we look that up? Square inch by inch, is the cat warmer than the dog on a 3-cat night?
On a 3-cat night.
You take 3 dogs in your bed, and I'll take 3 cats in my
Well,
bed.
if we have like these cat people who have 82 cats, now when on a cold night, if you get 64 of them to sleep on your bed, besides the fact that you probably won't wake up in the morning because of the weight of all of that, but other than that, you'd be really warm and smell horribly.
And see, you'd smell worse if it were dogs. Cats don't smell like that.
Well,
so it's a little more pleasant, and inch by inch, you're getting more heat out of it.
Well, I'm going to tell you that I think historically dogs have been preferred in the bed heating industry. I believe that you can find that is true almost 100% of the time.
So we can sell like the canine mattress,
right? Yeah, with living dogs in it. Feed them a couple times a day. Maybe you have to take them outside.
But you can't sell the feline mattress.
No, you don't want to do that because they're not going to put up with that.
That's already got other connotations to it, which might attract an audience, actually.
Well, it would. I think if you want an audience in your bedroom, and I think given the technology of today, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we can even see, videos on YouTube of the benefits of the feline mattress as opposed to the
there you go
canine mattress.
Right.
I'd watch that.
Would you?
Would you watch that?
I would try not to.
I would watch it.
Okay. Well, then I will not even go there. I will just leave it alone. Not only would I leave it alone, but I'm going to leave it completely because we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Got any questions for us? Well, if you do, there's a couple of ways to get hold of us. First of all, on email, our email address is oopscultureshow@gmail.com. And our handle on Twitter is oopscultureshow. Pretty clever, huh? So talk to us.
Back to the scraper thing. What is the name of that?
It was like a shoe brush, they're calling it now, in the more modern technology of it. Yes, I've seen it with just it's almost a blade there that's upright.
That's right.
And you just put your bottom of your shoe on it and scrape back to get the dirt off.
Why did they have to soften
Well,
it
because they
like
got to
that?
charge more money for it. You make the technology greater, and it
It also sounds wimpy, and it's not a wimpy thing. It's a sharp,
it's a very, very
masculine
strong,
kind of
powerful
metal thing that sits there that you
Yes.
use to scrape the crap off.
masculine metal thing that sits there.
Right.
Okay. And
It's not a shoe brush. Jesus, it's a shoe brush.
yeah.
That's what you do to polish your shoes.
Well, see, there you go. I mean, you're cleaning off well, I suppose you can go, look, if it cleans off the top of my shoe, now it'll clean off the bottom of your shoe.
Anyway.
The Shoe Brush by Ronco.
Anyway, in Czechoslovakia, you don't have to worry about it because you keep the shoes outside your door.
You just leave them outside. It's a lot easier.
That's
it's a
it.
lot easier. And then you put on slippers, as several Asian cultures do.
Very big in Japan, in many other countries in East Asia. Japan, I think of Japan because they're the most ritualized of all of the East Asian cultures. So they've got this thing down to a process almost. So
In Japan.
in Japan, so
yeah.
like if
Well,
you
that's
go-
pretty much almost all of life for the Japanese.
That's
Yes.
it. You got to ritualize behaviors. So traditionally, and again, this changes. You go to a modern westernized apartment in Tokyo, it might be slightly different, but traditionally, you leave your shoes in the front door. You go into the apartment or the house. You take without your shoes. You may be given a pair of slippers to wear, and if you ever have to go into the bathroom,
Right.
in the bathroom is a separate pair of slippers. And this is a very important thing. You got to know this, right? You don't wear the slippers that you're wearing inside the house into the bathroom.
Right.
Because that's going to soil them with whatever
Bacteria,
is
things
in
like
the
that might be
bathroom.
in the bathroom.
Right.
Right.
And then you walk out from what's in the bathroom into the house and you're carrying all that, you take your slippers, step out of your slippers before you go into the bathroom.
Yeah.
Go into the bathroom and put the bathroom slippers on.
That are solely for the bathroom.
Solely for the bathroom.
Now, do you have your own bathroom slippers, or are they just kind of like the generic bathroom slippers?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
If I have a pair of Japanese bathroom slippers?
Well, no. I'm asking if they're in a normal household. And not a...
I'm going to give you two answers.
Oh, good. I was hoping for that.
In a normal household,
yeah,
you do.
You do. You do what? And how do you know I do?
You're breaking into song now.
Oh, okay. Let's not ever do that again.
You have a pair of house slippers and you have a pair of bathroom slippers.
Okay. So you would, but would I have my own? Like, would I, Tom, walk in and say, these are mine right here, and I'm using these when I'm in the bathroom, and I'll leave them
I
in the
don't think
bathroom?
so. I think it's a one pair per family, but I may be wrong on this.
Okay.
Back to my original point.
Yes. Wait, going back to the original point?
About the bathroom slippers.
Yes.
I do own a pair of Japanese bathroom slippers as well as Japanese house slippers.
Do you?
Yeah. So
Okay.
remember, you have to leave the bathroom slippers in the bathroom, and then when you come back out.
Yes, coming out. I see that would get me. If I was coming back out, I'd have to remember
exactly
to take off the bathroom slippers.
And if you don't, your host or hostess is going to be shocked. It will never be announced to you. It will never be, because then you're going into this other
now
issue of
you're
Japanese
losing
culture
face.
where
You're
causing
you shouldn't
your
be
guests to lose
sure.
face.
So there's a dilemma for you right there.
Well, it's a very good metaphor for understanding the challenge of working in Japanese culture.
Of course.
If you don't know anything about the culture and make mistakes after mistakes and walk out of the bathroom with your shoes, with your slippers on, and do all sorts of things that you can do that are wrong in Japan, people aren't really going to tell you.
Right.
And it's going to feel like everything's okay.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It really isn't. Right.
No,
and
really.
and when you really think about it, I mean, we will do this. We do it all the time, and we don't consider by we, I mean in the United States, we don't go into the bathroom and worry about it when we come out, in the sense of
I do for other reasons.
Well, then, yeah, and that again is a totally separate podcast.
It takes us to the toilet.
Yeah, and perhaps far farther than we ever want to go. But anyway, I think you've got to be. Our mindset isn't that our shoes have a problem. We have the mindset of our hands and the cleaning of that, and the whole industry of using, the antibacterial stuff now and all of that. But we don't think at all about the fact that these little buggies are, flying around in there, and they can be on your shoes too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how close to the toilet do you keep your toothbrush?
How close to the toilet do you keep your toothbrush?
I mean, not that close. Because you don't want.
I don't keep it close. I just rinse mine off in the toilet. But I don't keep it close.
Stop. Don't
stop.
Stop
doing
that. You
that?
don't do that. Well, yes, stop doing that.
Okay.
And stop doing that.
Oh, well, fine. I completely understand what you're saying. All right then.
So it's a new year, and it's freezing cold where we are.
Where we are right now, it's freezing cold.
There's covering of snow up to your
yin yang,
and it's very cold, and so we're wearing puppy slippers.
Yeah, well, you're wearing puppy slippers. I'm wearing regular slippers.
Inside the house, because we left the crap-laden shoes outside.
Yes. By the door, in the mudroom, in another area. And I think, going back to, I believe, actually close to the original point of the conversation, I think that in the United States, you see more and more of people doing exactly what we're talking about. I think that's impacting a lot more places, regardless of the reasons why most likely that we ever got away from it. I think more and more people are saying, I know right now the main motivating factor for me leaving my shoes by the back door and not walking into the house with them at my home is that my wife would hurt me. She would damage me physically.
For that reason or for other reasons?
Oh, well, there's a variety of reasons.
That's
you
what
can
I
check
thought.
off on the list.
She's just using that as an excuse.
But that's one of them, yeah. And it's one she can get to pretty quickly because she sees it if I walk into the house, and then she can go ahead and hurt me physically. Sure. and in many other ways.
You like this life?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes I do. It's another podcast, I believe.
Tune in next Shavuos for...
That's coming up pretty soon, isn't
It
it?
is coming up
I think
soon,
it is.
actually,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Okay.
We'll have to talk about that.
We'll do that in
another
the
time.
Shavuos podcast. We'll cover that.
But you see, Shavuos is coming up all the time whenever you want to allude to something that's isn't here now and is
Approaching. Okay.
You always say, well, I don't, not you always say, I would always say, my grandmother would always say, my tradition. Yeah, next Shavuos we'll do this.
I see.
We'll do that. It's a way of putting things off. It's
Yeah.
a way of also talking about not doing something now, but it may be imminent or maybe occurring. It has multiple uses.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I see that. It's a it anchors something while not anchoring anything at all.
Precisely.
Oh, thanks for backing me up on that. Now I'm going to back us up a bit, and we're going to just take a brief break. Be right back.
Okay, listen, here's the reality. Whether this is the first episode or the third episode or whatever episode that you've listened to, if you're still listening at this point, I think you might like this. And if you do, you should really subscribe. Because if you subscribe, these things will just show up for you, and you can listen to them whenever you want to. That's the best way to go, really, honestly. I know what I'm talking about. All right, so just subscribe through iTunes or through wherever you get your podcasts from. But do it today, okay? Subscribe. Thank you.
So Cheryl and I, we were planning a New Year's Eve party,
Yes.
and we were
A
thinking
lot of
about.
shoes.
That's right. There were a lot of shoes, and people did come. It was a very cold night, and there was lots of snow, residual snow on the ground,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of salt from the street.
Yes.
And so people were very kind and considerate when they came to the door.
Uh-huh.
And many people asked me, should I take my shoes off before coming in?
Sure.
And that was, I appreciated the consideration, but this was a lovely New Year's Eve party where people may have come dressed in a more festive way for festive reasons, including maybe festive shoes.
Nice shoes. Definitely.
Right. So
I know I had my
didn't-
heels out to wear.
and or little red ruby slippers.
There you go.
So
Mhm.
I didn't want to be the one to say, take them off.
Yeah.
No, you can't wear your ruby slippers in here. It's
Well, at
New
least
Year's Eve,
not
right?
too early in the party anyway.
Right. So, of course, come in. You know, whatever you like to do. Take them off, leave them on. It doesn't matter. What was my point?
I'm lost completely.
I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. So Cheryl and I were doing the New Year's Eve
Yes.
party. Cheryl's my wife, right?
Yeah.
And so people were coming in with their shoes on or off, and I was trying to think what would make the party kind of lively, because you want to do something other than just have the food and the drink, because you can do that any Saturday night, right?
Right, sure,
or any
yeah.
Monday morning, in fact, if you
Right.
want.
I'm doing it right now.
We've had those kind of parties on Monday morning. They're sometimes more interesting. than
Man,
the Saturday
sometimes they
night.
are.
Anyway, what are we going to do? It's New Year's Eve. We've got to do something. So we thought, let's have people come in, and from a big bowl, they would choose, they'd reach their hand in and pull out a little sticker that would tell them a New Year's Eve tradition from somewhere around the world. That's specific to a culture from
Interesting.
somewhere around the world.
Uh-huh.
And that at some point in the evening, you had to reenact this tradition.
The tradition that you had pulled out of the bowl.
Now, if you pulled one out and you didn't like it, you could trade it with somebody else at the party.
You could barter your tradition.
Your tradition, right.
Huh. All right.
Right.
Okay.
So we were thinking of doing this, but then Cheryl and I realized that this was going to maybe become problematic
Uh-huh.
because, like one of them was you had to take, in Greece, you throw a whole pomegranate out the window.
Okay.
And watch it smash on the ground in front of you. And the idea is that it scatters the seeds, so the new year should be abundant,
Okay.
like the scattered pomegranate
Uh-huh.
seeds. But then we were thinking we're going to have a lot of smashed pomegranates on our sidewalk.
All over, and maybe windows if people don't figure that out.
Yeah, so we kept trying to think of ways around this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you pulled the one for Denmark was you had to smash pottery and then put it in front of the doorstep of your neighbor or your friend.
Yep.
And the idea is that the neighbor who has the most smashed pottery in front of their door,
Okay.
obviously is the most popular person in the neighborhood.
Okay.
So it earns you popularity points.
I see. Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. But then we were thinking, but we would have lots of smashed china in front of people's doors.
You've got pomegranate
in
and
Brooklyn,
china all over
which
the place.
probably wouldn't necessarily be that different from the way the street often looks. But, we didn't want to contribute to that.
I can see the
right?
lawsuits coming too at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's pretty interesting. It's
and then some of them were just totally impractical. Like in Venezuela, you have to wear, in Argentina, I think it is, you have to wear pink underwear on New Year's Eve.
Oh, I don't find a problem with that.
To invite love into your life for the upcoming year.
Okay.
Well, unless you knew to wear pink underwear before you came to the party,
Yes.
and you pulled that one out of the bowl, how were you going to do it?
Well, you could have provided pink underwear for them to put on.
Oh, we could have. That's true. In fact, that would have been easy.
Yeah, there you go. That would have perhaps really been an icebreaker, so to speak.
Yeah. So if you come in and there's a bowl of pink undies, it's because if you pull the Argentinian New Year's Eve tradition out of the bowl,
yes,
you got your props at the ready.
And
And this one,
I think if I see a bowl of pink underwear,
this is the only one you're not allowed to trade.
Well, fair enough. Okay.
I could think of any number of guys who were invited to the party.
Yeah. Who would have been really happy about the pink underwear.
No, who would not have been.
I see. Okay.
But that would have been great.
I think it would have depended. If it was a nice pair of pink underwear, I'd have been perfectly fine with that. Now, let me ask a question about that also. How does anyone know that you're wearing the pink underwear unless you're wearing them on the outside?
Well, I think...
Or you're not wearing pants.
That's a good question.
Or a dress or whatever goes.
We need to find out. We need to ask
Okay.
our Argentinian friend.
This is more work that has to be done. Okay.
I have an Argentinian friend.
We have to look into Argentinian pink underwear.
Do we ask first of all, you can't say Argentinian. Argentinian refers to objects. It doesn't refer to people.
And I just referred to an object with it.
And I did too, so that was a mistake. A mutual mistake. We both did. Argentines are the people. Argentinian wine.
Or, as I said, Argentinian pink underwear.
No, you said we'll roll it back and see what you say.
I'll roll it back. I'll be proven correct. Anyway, but they are Argentines.
Not the underwear.
Well, you speak for your underwear, buddy. It's
the people are Argentine.
Right.
The wine is
Those
Argentinian.
wearing the Argentinian pink underwear would be Argentines.
Yes. And by the way, all Argentinian underwear is not necessarily pink. I just want to make
Good to know.
I want to put that out there.
Not that there's anything wrong with pink underwear.
Or not if there's anything wrong with not pink underwear.
Exactly. We'll want to treat all underwear equally.
In Argentina and elsewhere, I think.
Not to say all underwear is created equally, but we should treat it equally.
Yes, I mean, some is much more, elaborate and high class. Quality is better or less. And of course.
Grand, perhaps, comfortable. It's, of course.
And that's an important
But it's a very personal thing, I would say.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Now, what about the cultures that wear their underwear on the outside? Are they...
like...
well, I don't know right off the top of my head, but I'm not supposed to be the grand expert in this. You're the grand poobah of culture.
I think every major Western city has a neighborhood where they do that. Yes.
or a neighbor.
Or a neighbor.
Yeah.
For sure.
Or good old Uncle Charlie who does that, at least on occasion.
Yeah. on New Year's Eve often.
Hopefully at the end of the parties, a few people
Sometimes
were
at
doing
the
that.
beginning.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
So we decided we would, maybe that would be a problem unless we supplied the props, like the bowl of pink
you have to have your
undies.
pomegranate. You have to have your
Pink
stuff
undies
and your pink undies.
And China. You got to have a supply of China to break.
Right, sure.
If you do the Danish tradition.
Yeah, exactly. But isn't that interesting? See, to me, that sounds like the Danes, who are well known for creating dinnerware and things like that. It sounds to me like they're trying to promote more. If that gets broken at the beginning of the year like that, then you've got to go purchase more throughout the year. And so I'm guessing that the industries behind that were promoting this
Danes
tradition.
are also known for being very clever. I mean,
And that would be quite clever and quite contemporary, really. At least the way we see it.
I see it as Danish modern.
Fine. Why don't we take one last break here, and then we'll come back, and you can confuse me more.
Okay, I promise this is the last time I'll bug you with this. Well, at least in this podcast. The way to get hold of us, if you got an idea, maybe you've got an idea for a whole show or something we could, talk about, send us it. Send us it at oopscultureshow@gmail.com. Okay, that's our email address, oopscultureshow@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle, don't you love saying Twitter handle? It just makes things sound so, kind of like we know what we're talking about. Our Twitter handle, anyway, is Oops Culture Show. That's right, Oops Culture Show.
And then there's the Danish tradition on New Year's of jumping off of chairs.
Uh-huh. And why don't
At
you tell me
midnight.
about that?
At
Because
midnight.
at midnight you jump
You
off
stand
a chair.
on a chair and you jump off.
Okay, and that is to signify what?
You probably had too much to drink.
I can buy into that, sure. I can't tell you how many times I've jumped
Or
off
not
chairs.
enough. I don't know. I don't know the significance behind that
Good
one.
point. You might have. I think falling off of chairs is even a better way to tell how much someone's had to drink. But that's not Danish.
Or
is it?
sliding off of chairs.
Or eating a Danish. That
While eating a Danish.
While eating a Danish.
You are talking about the pastry.
Well, absolutely. Yes. Why?
This is like Argentinian and Argentine.
No. This
Danish and Dane.
This is actually a Danish. It's We're talking about Danes and Danish. We're not talking about a Danish person.
All right.
We're talking about an actual baked substance. Although I suppose some Danes could be baked as well occasionally.
A great Dane.
Yeah, a great Dane. Victor Borge was a great Dane.
He was a great Dane.
He was a great Dane, for those of you who are 178 years old.
He was great.
He really was.
Did you ever see some of his old videos?
I do.
Hysterical.
Well, they are hysterical. He was
funny,
brilliant. He truly was brilliant. If you don't know who he is, look the guy up. Watch a YouTube video. Learn something, for God's sakes.
Did we find out the name of that shoe scraper thing again? Oh, yeah, we called it a...
It was the brush thing. By the way, just so you know, cats and dogs have essentially, this is through the producer, Torin here. Hello. He's done the producing for us, and he has come up that the cats and dogs have essentially the same normal body temperature, which runs between 100 and 102 degrees Fahrenheit. So your theory is, I would say, in the range of 100% incorrect.
No. And here's why.
Okay.
That's assuming that there's an average size for dogs and an average size for cats. Now, cats being generally smaller...
No, it's just the freaking body temperature.
Right.
It's not having to do with average size.
Yeah. So cats being generally, on average, smaller than... dogs,
yes,
on average,
yes,
right?
Yes.
If they have the same equivalent body temperature,
yes,
that only tells me that it's a lot hotter per square inch in that smaller body than it is in the bigger body.
And that tells me that you didn't do well in science class, did
Math
you?
was never my strong point.
No, okay. Good. I think we should pay attention, however, to the fact that they are both are higher temperatured than, if that's a word, temperatured. They have higher temperatures than humans do, and clearly higher temperatures than fish do. Speaking of fish, Iguanas, which are not
fish, but moving in that direction.
Yeah. They were falling out of trees. We were talking about how cold it's been. They were falling out of trees in places like Florida and Georgia, I believe, where they're on the cusp there of having potentially colder weather once in a while. It was so cold that they were actually falling out of trees because they got that cold. They're cold. They're cold-blooded.
Are these the iguanas or the fish?
These are the iguanas. The fish were not falling out of the trees.
Because that would have been
We're pretty much assuming that's because they're not in the trees. But if they were, that would be like Sharknado. But again, another podcast, I think. Yeah, the iguanas were falling out of the trees. They were fine. No iguanas were hurt in this freeze that I'm aware of. But they did fall out, and then as it got a little warmer, they would start walking around again.
What are iguanas doing in Georgia?
What are they doing anyway?
They don't belong in. I'm not saying
if I'm an iguana, it's a dumb place to be. Georgia's a dumb place to be.
You don't belong on the mainland in the United States.
Well, why don't go down near the equator?
I'm sorry.
Enjoy
you
yourself.
Don't. I mean, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Well, again, it's climate change. They're moving around a lot. I know. I've seen. I think
they're just confused. They probably don't have. They're still working with MapQuest or something like that, and they can't find where they're going. And they got in the wrong tree.
I've seen the iguanas en masse swimming across the Florida Straits
and ending up in Georgia in a frozen tree. Yep.
So, what did the iguanas and the fish have to do with New Year's?
Absolutely.
I was thinking we were planning on one other New Year's tradition.
Okay.
Because
this is a new tradition now. You were creating tradition. Am I correct?
No. These are traditions from all over the world that we were going to put in the bowl, and people were going to select them.
I see. Okay, never mind.
And so, if you got it and you wanted it, you could keep it, or you could trade it, or you couldn't do anything if you got the pink underwear from Argentina.
Yeah,
you had to do that one. But on New Year's Eve, you eat 12 grapes as once New Year's midnight comes.
You eat 12 grapes. Whose tradition is this?
Oh, I didn't tell you?
No.
This is Spain or Hispanic cultures.
Okay.
And so most of Hispanic Latin America.
Okay.
Okay, so, and of course, you have to be, not every country in Latin America speaks Spanish, right? The biggest country in Latin America is Brazil, and it's Portuguese, right? But in Hispanic Latin America, so we're talking about,
So this would not be an Iberian Peninsula tradition.
No,
it
not
would be
necessarily.
A Spanish one.
Right.
Okay.
Spanish specifically.
Uh-huh.
So all the Spanish-speaking countries in Latin America, this is common. You eat 12 grapes at midnight on New Year's Eve. One grape representing each month of the coming new year. It should be sweet. It should be prosperous. You should have what you need.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's often served in little champagne glasses, 12 grapes, and everybody gets a glass of 12 grapes, and you eat them. So we were thinking of doing that.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Much less damage on the sidewalk, I would say.
But we didn't because we blew the whole idea out the water, because we just became, you can't just do that because we're not Hispanic, and it would be odd that we'd be celebrating only one tradition.
Right.
Unless you celebrate all of these traditions.
Yes.
And then we decided it was going to get messy.
Okay.
Fun, but messy.
Right. Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, like in Germany, an old tradition is you take molten lead and you pour it in cold water. And then whatever shape it turns out to be is you're going to read into this meaning of the shape, and that's kind of an augury of what's going to happen next for the rest in the new year.
So this is the art of reading
molten
lead balls cooling.
In cooling, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And it seems like a very specific
whatever
skill.
shape it takes is the way your new year is going to turn.
Do you have any idea what a good shape would be of my molten lead when it cools?
Yeah.
What would that be?
The shape of a gold bar.
If it was actually a gold bar.
Well, no, but it's indicating that you're going to have, right?
That would be pretty good.
But if it takes the shape,
is this like a Rorschach test?
Yeah, I think. Okay. Well, no, I don't think it's up to interpretation. I think everybody knows what it looks like. If your piece of lead turns out to look like a piece of turd, that's your year.
Well, mine's been looking that way for a few years now, so I'm not surprised. I would anticipate that actually. When, well, but supposedly Rorschach means something, right? I mean,
No,
or
I don't.
tea leaves.
I don't know if Rorschach itself means anything.
Do you think it means something?
It's the name of the man who discovered the
Lean
test,
back.
who created
Relax.
the test.
Talk to me about
That's
it.
what it means.
Tell me about it.
Although his name Rorschach might have a certain meaning, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. His name.
His name. That's what
Okay.
you said. What's the meaning of Rorschach?
Wasn't he on Saved by the Bell
he
or,
was.
or Welcome Back, Kotter or
He
something
was.
like that?
He was
I
Mr.
think.
Rorschach.
Yes.
Yes, the one who read into everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh huh.
Mm-hmm.
What he always said? What do you think it looks like?
That's right.
Right.
Right. Driving the kids crazy.
Which I think leads us back to scraping something off of the bottom of your shoe.
Yes.
Is anyone reading that? I mean, there you go. If we're doing that, somebody should be reading what you're scraping off the bottom of your shoe.
Well, maybe that's a tradition somewhere.
I think
Year's
it
tradition.
could be. We'll have to check that one out. Okay. If what about any kind of the people who read tea leaves and the people who do tarot cards and all of that? Is it a big is like New Year's a big deal for them? Do you know that?
They go out and have parties.
Okay, good. That's kind of what I thought, but all right.
I don't think anybody wants to read tea leaves on New Year's Eve. I mean, you're drinking.
Well, fair point. Fair point. See, that leads
And you're
us
not
to another
drinking
tradition. In traditions, and we'll do this as another podcast, without a doubt. But it's where do traditions come from? Because traditions aren't just there.
Shalom Aleichem.
Yeah, well, many, but where do they come from?
And a Sheldon Harnick song, which was the opening to a great show.
A wonderful show. And it's, I've always said
sing
you
it?
could
Can
get
you-
five
can we
people,
sing
do Fiddler on the Roof in a parking lot and you'll draw a crowd.
Right.
But yeah, it's
Can
absolutely.
we sing it? Can we sing it now?
I think I hear it right now. Listen, hold on. Is that a fiddle I hear? Someone out on the roof, perhaps?
No, it's
It's
covered in
freaking
snow.
cold out
It's
there right now.
Well, that's the way it was in the Stettles.
Yeah, on your shtetl. But,
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we should do a podcast though on where the traditions come from beyond the musical that is so brilliant.
Oh, that would be very interesting.
Yeah, I think because I mean you think
The
about some of these
source of-
things
the
like
source of these.
yeah the breaking of the things of the pottery by the Danes. Is that just because somebody was carrying pottery out and slipped and dropped it and then went, oh, look, it means good luck for the year or something like that?
Often it starts that way, but then they read symbolism into it.
And then you
extend
read,
it.
we're reading things into it again.
It's
See where I'm
Rorschach.
going here? There is a cycle. There's a whole cycle.
Well, it's interesting that we're taking a psychological phenomenon and applying it to a sociological phenomenon, right?
Which makes it a psychological as opposed to a cycle.
A psychosocial. I mean, you're talking about a psychosocial phenomenon.
There you go.
Is psychological meaning dealing with the individual, and an individual can do anything, right? And when we talk about culture, we often have to distinguish what an individual does as opposed to what the mean of a group does.
And if the right individual does it, meaning someone who everyone else has to suck up to,
Or if there's some authority invested
Yes.
in this individual,
then it's a better chance it's going to turn into a tradition.
yeah, then they can say and do anything, and 100 people will follow. Of
Right.
course.
Right. Not that would happen in the United States.
No, not in
but-
the U.S.
But
no.
certainly in older,
And that was said with
countries.
extreme tongue in cheek,
very, very extreme.
which is not
Yes.
necessarily. I'm not talking about the same thing as the facial gesture in Burkina Faso.
Oh, yes.
indicating-
And that's actually kind of onto the cheek, on the outside, as opposed in the cheek,
In the
which
cheek,
is
right.
tongue in cheek is what we're going for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm thinking that I'm just tired of listening to you talk.
And
so,
and my puppies are getting sweaty, actually.
and I
So
didn't
I
need
got-
to know that. In fact, what is that puppy on there anyway? Do you know what kind of puppy that is?
What kind of a dog?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I'm a cat person, right? I mean, I've
Can't get
had a dog.
Just a plain answer. See?
I've had a dog.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful dog. His name was Doc. We had him for 20 years.
I remember Doc.
Remember him?
I do.
And remember the time he took our friend's underwear and wore it on his head?
I do remember
Yeah.
that.
We're
Yes.
Talking about underwear?
Yes.
Doc brings us full circle. It wasn't pink, however. So anyway,
Well, it might. Well, that's another story.
But, I mean-
go ahead.
but I'm basically a cat person.
Okay.
I love duck, and I'm not saying that as a qualifier. I mean,
we're going to get back
but
to the
I've
slippers.
always had cats.
Speaking of cycles. Go
So
ahead.
it's odd that I have dog slippers, not cat slippers.
It
Wouldn't
is.
you
I
think-
thought that immediately. I was so blown away by that.
Wouldn't you think I'd have pussy slippers?
I would think you would. And if you think I'm going there, you are so wrong. I've got a life to live, at least for a couple more years. So I'm. That was Dean Foster, master of culture, but not his own, clearly. Is that a Shih Tzu on your slipper there?
It is because you got to scrape the crap off. Your shoe.
Yeah. I thought there was a little Shih Tzu on there. All right. Well, I'm Tom Peterson. He's Dean Foster, and you're not. And hopefully, you've learned something in this whole mess. We've learned that we're probably going to be back and do another one of these, and you should join us. Because I'm looking forward to a lot of people joining us, aren't you?
Or not.
Okay, well, there you go. And that's now a tradition. We don't really give a damn. So how about that? Anyway, and thank you to Torin for his producing and filling us in with valuable information along the way.
My pleasure.
For now,
Smell ya. I know, I said I wouldn't bug you again, but I am. And here's why. You're still listening after all that time, so if you're still listening and you didn't like this, well, there's probably therapy in your future. But before you do that, it would be even better if you would subscribe to our podcast. That way you could not like it more and more. And it's really pretty easy. All you have to do is just subscribe through iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. It's not hard. Even you can do it, I think. So for all of us here at Oops, Your Culture Showing, thanks.